Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode I wanted to talk about when is the best time to buy altcoins. It's right after Bitcoin bottoms, right? Well, maybe not. Let's look at the data. So we're going to look at a couple of different alt BTC pairs and see how they performed exactly after Bitcoin's bottom in December of 2018. We're going to look at the Doge Bitcoin pair, the Ethereum Bitcoin, XRP, ADA, Litecoin, BNB, Quant, and Link, basically the top altcoins of 2018, and we're going to look at how all of these alts performed after Bitcoin bottom. So there seems to be this notion that as soon as Bitcoin bottoms, alts are going to rocket to the upside and outperform it. However, historically, that's really not the case. Let's start off on Dogecoin, right? Everyone was expecting Dogecoin to do a massive face tear as soon as Bitcoin did, and it did a face tear, but it did the face tear about 800 days later. If we look at this chart, you can see from when Bitcoin bottomed on December 1st, it literally went sideways for a whole 762 days, meaning that if we move this over, as we're on the monthly time frame, it took 26 months for Dogecoin to become more profitable than Bitcoin. And if you sat on the sidelines for another 24 months, you would have basically bought at a great time for Dogecoin, 2 years after Bitcoin bottomed. Let's head over to Ethereum. Ethereum is a very similar situation. You can see Bitcoin bottomed over here, 1st of December. It rallied for a week or so, and then boom, it broke down for another 274 days. And if we pull this to the side, you can see it took a whole 852 days from when Bitcoin bottomed for Ethereum to start outperforming Bitcoin. Let's head over to XRP. Now, XRP, if you do watch this channel, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. This coin is garbage. As you can see, it hasn't done anything since 2017. You know, it's been making highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. The same with XRP USD. But basically, as soon as Bitcoin put its bottom in December of 2018, it's been in a bear market ever since. If you've been holding it since Bitcoin's lows in 2018, you've been holding for about 47 to 48 months, and against Bitcoin, that pair is now down about 75%. Not looking good whatsoever. But in terms of when XRP had a temporary bottom against Bitcoin, it took about 26 months, which was 762 days. Let's head over to ADA. Now, ADA, kind of like Dogecoin, you can see it rallied on the month, and kind of like Ethereum, and yeah, I'll give it to XRP as well. I mean, we had like a 1-2% rally or so after this. ADA did have a nice rally against Bitcoin, and in my opinion, I think most alts are going to set up this chart. I think Bitcoin's going to make a low, and then I think something like this is going to happen, where a lot of your altcoins are going to have, you know, immediate 2x pumps to the upside, but then when Bitcoin comes back down to form higher lows, which in my opinion it definitely will, then these altcoins normally go back down for another leg to the downside. So you can see from when Bitcoin topped out in December, it took about 8 to 9 months or 243 days for Cardano to actually bottom against its Bitcoin pair. And if you just sat on the sidelines and said, hey, you know, I'll wait for this trend to start flipping bullish against Bitcoin again, you would have been on the sidelines for almost 800 days, 793 days, until the Cardano pair against Bitcoin started pushing up and outperforming. Please do bear in mind, I am not saying that your altcoins are never going to perform well against Bitcoin again. I'm simply highlighting here that you really do have to pick very wisely when you do enter, and a lot of these cryptocurrencies, like your Cardanos, you can see they haven't been performing that well against Bitcoin since January of 2018. They're still in a downtrend. You come over to XRP and you can see a lot of these cryptos, you know, they made highs against their Bitcoin pairs in, you know, 2017, 2018, and they never made new highs. That is not always the case. You can see Dogecoin had a massive rally. Ethereum as well, though, it didn't. You know, once again, we're still making lower highs against the Bitcoin pair. So it'd be interesting to see what happens on this in the future. Now, moving on to Litecoin, like I said, a lot of these charts look very similar. You pump for a few months, everyone thinks the bottom's in, Bitcoin comes down and makes a higher low. So if we do come over to Bitcoin, you can see this is what I'm talking about. Bitcoin bottom was here, December 2018, massive rally. A lot of alts outperformed Bitcoin here, but then Bitcoin went back down and it made a higher low, round about $4,000 from its initial lows at $3,200. And as you can see, all of the alt pairs at that time just started rocketing into new lows when Bitcoin was making higher lows. So as you can see, what about Litecoin? Well, Litecoin, just like a lot of these cryptocurrencies, made highs against Bitcoin. You know, this was in 2013. We're in a downtrend against Bitcoin since 2013. I think a lot of people need to look at the alts they're investing in and look at the Bitcoin pairs. Is your alt outperforming Bitcoin? If it's not, dump it. Holding an altcoin is thousands of times more risky than holding Bitcoin. And if that altcoin's not even outperforming Bitcoin, you're taking on a ton of extra risk and you're not even outperforming Bitcoin. So what is the point? Holding something like ADA, holding something like Litecoin, holding something like XRP, it just doesn't make sense in my opinion. And as you can see, you know, since the lows in 2018, well, we're still making lower lows and lower highs. You can see over here, we made a lower high from here, and then we broke down lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, and lower highs. We're still in a downtrend. So it's still arguable to say that, you know, Litecoin from, you know, when Bitcoin bottomed in 2018 is still in a downtrend for 47 months, approximately 1,431 days. Let's move on to BNB. We all know this was a major outperformer in 2021. I know myself, this was a pretty big part of my portfolio, and this was probably one of my better trades in terms of my altcoin bags. Now you can see, once again, we see the same thing in the charts a lot. You know, you see that rally that happens for a few months, and over here on Binance, it rallied for about 120 days, but then what did it do? It broke down and made new lows 25 months later, or 762 days later. If you basically sat on the sidelines for this entire sideways crab cycle, you would have missed out on basically absolutely nothing. And you know, when these pairs started to heat up again and they actually started to break bullish against the pairs, you know, you could have bought here and then, you know, sat on the sidelines for this massive run. And once again, most of these cryptos don't make new highs against Bitcoin, but some of them, if you're a good picker of altcoins, they definitely will. There's definitely a lot of meme coins, dog coins, and even utility tokens such as Binance that will continue pushing up and making new highs. Maybe in the next cycle, but forever is a different question. I do think Binance is going to perform pretty well for a substantial amount of time, but you have to take into consideration a lot of the time these altcoin pairs, they top out against Bitcoin and they never go back to those levels. But yeah, once again, just letting you know about a 26-month downtrend until we actually started to break bullish. Over on Quant, this was another one that was really outperforming this bull run. This went on a massive tear to the upside, and you can see it did pretty much what the rest of these altcoins did. It rallied for 1, 2, 3 months, and then it broke down and made new lows. It made new lows 182 days later, and then if we pull this out, it looks like we double tested these lows. Whether we made a double bottom, a slightly higher low, or whether we made new lows, it really doesn't matter. You can see 762 days of basically chopping on this floor, and you know, if you bought in this range, it was extremely boring. Up down, up down, up down. You're probably pulling your hair out, your hairs were going white, just waiting for that next run to the upside, which obviously took its sweet time. So once again, you know, a lot of people think as soon as Bitcoin bottoms, altcoins are going to explode and outperform Bitcoin up until the next bear market. But you know, you look at your Dogecoins, look at your ETHs, look at your XRPs, your ADAs, your Litecoins, your BNBs, your Quants. That is not the case. The majority of these altcoins will never return to their Bitcoin highs, and the ones that do will probably take their sweet time. Now, sometimes you might even find a market outlier, for example, Chainlink. Now, for Chainlink, you can't really say that because Bitcoin bottomed, Chainlink started outperforming, because during the entirety of the bear market, and I remember, once again, I've been in here since 2017, and I held a lot of Chainlink back in the bear market because everyone was hyped about it. Its community was super strong. They were still still posting memes, laughing over on Twitter and on Instagram, memeing. The project was strong from a pumpamental perspective, and because of this, even though Bitcoin hadn't bottomed, Chainlink was outperforming Bitcoin the entire time. So, like I said, sometimes you will find these market outliers, and you will find some very unique cryptocurrencies which will outperform Bitcoin, but look at the majority of them. The majority of them don't return to their all-time high, and the ones that do and make new highs, they normally take a very long period in time. Now, before I do wrap up this video, what is the purpose of this? Am I telling you that after Bitcoin bottoms, altcoins are going to take, 700, 800, 500 days before they start performing well again? No, I am not saying that. I'm just looking at what happened in 2018 and relaying this information. I personally think the markets are a little bit more developed than they were in 2018. The markets are very degenerative and risk on. Like historically, you look back at the S&P 500 when the S&P 500 bottomed, and the Nasdaq was outperforming it for some periods of time. So there is definitely a possibility that as soon as Bitcoin bottoms, altcoins could start outperforming. The only thing I'm really highlighting in this video is there is no rush to ape into altcoins. If you're planning on buying altcoins, at least wait until there are signals that Bitcoin is putting in a bottom formation, and then even if you do buy and it doesn't do anything for a year or two, then you haven't bought at the worst possible price. So like I said, it's really all I've got for you for this video. I'm not by any means saying that altcoins are going to take another 2 years to start breaking bullish. I am, however, saying there are a few things that we do need to see other than Bitcoin bottoming for me to want to increase my appetite in altcoins. For example, interest rates pivots, understanding when the United States interest rates start to pivot and understanding how they affect the market is going to be very, very important. So for example, a lot of altcoins, you can see, the altcoin pairs were underperforming against Bitcoin up until the point where the interest rates hit super low levels. And then this is interesting, where you come over to something like your ADAs, which did well this market. Let's put it on a new pane. You can see their bull run really was sitting up there. They were sitting on the sideline this entire run for Bitcoin. They were doing basically nothing, and then United States interest rates start to flatline and become extremely cheap, and that's when altcoins start to push up, because that's when the Nasdaq started to push up. That's when risk on assets started to push up. If you don't understand all about interest rates, risk on assets, Fed pivots, that's completely fine. You might be new to the channel. Come check us out. I talk about everything from the cryptocurrency markets, bond markets, equity markets, how the Fed pivots, interest rates, on-chain metrics, how everything affects the price action. We like to dive into a lot of things other than your simple YouTuber who's like, we're in a bull flag, this is the trend line that we need to keep in. Really not a fan of analysis like that. I like to look outside the box, and looking outside the box, this is what I've found on when Bitcoin historically bottoms and when altcoins historically bottom. In my opinion, if you're going to take away anything from this video, it is that there is no rush to ape into altcoins right now. I'll be sitting on the sidelines, and of course, I'll be letting you know as soon as I'm interested in buying alts. For this episode, my friends, that is all I've got for you. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button, hit the comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, share the videos with your friends. That's all I've got for you. Cowboy out. Peace.